That was 6.5 years ago, moments before Jeff Burton won his first ever NASCAR Busch Series race. You could see and hear what that win meant to Jeff and his then girlfriend, Kimberly Brown. Those same emotions were felt last weekend by Jeff and Kim, who are now married, as Jeff earned his first Winston Cup win at the Texas Motor Speedway. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speed Week. I'm Dave Calabro, filling in for Bob Jenkins. Last Sunday's inaugural Interstate Batteries 500 was certainly a memorable race for Jeff and Kim Burton, but the first ever race at the new Texas Motor Speedway was also one to forget for many drivers who left Bruton Smith's elaborate facility with damaged cars. Well, this weekend they'll also be at Bruton Smith-owned track, the Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee. The high-banked half-mile oval could provide even more bumping and banging than we saw last weekend. Rusty Wallace's day almost began with some bumping and banging with his slide in practice. The winner of a half-dozen races on this track pulled a fender off the tire and then went right back out to stick the Miller Lite Ford on the pole for Sunday's Food City 500.
We got a good setup. We tested here last year after the first race. We learned a lot of stuff that helped me, and I won the night race, and we just put the same type of stuff back into it. So hope it's going to work out, and so far so good. All systems go.
Younger brother Kenny Wallace will start one row behind Rusty after his best qualifying run of the year in the Square D Ford.
We really turned the intensity level up on this team the last 2 weeks. We're trying to prove our worth, and we feel like we can win on one of these short tracks, so that's what we're trying to do.
Perhaps even a bigger surprise was the front row effort turned in by home state hero Sterling Marlin in the Kodak Chevy.
Just went back to plain old basic car here. We hadn't run this car in about 2 years, and sat on the pole with it at Phoenix in '94. Hadn't run it since Michigan, I think, in '95, run third with it, and it's a good car.
A mixed bag for Roush Racing finds Ted Musgrave third, Texas winner Jeff Burton 11th, and Mark Martin, who has owned every pole here for 2 years, back in 23rd.
You know, the engine misfired, the starter didn't work, we had trouble with the starter, we just had a struggle. What I understand, we had trouble steering boxes as well. We put a fresh steering box on it right before qualifying, a power steering box, and I guess he had no power steering, so I think what the problem was.
Also an up-and-down day for Hendrick Motorsports. Defending race champion Jeff Gordon will start 5th. Teammate Terry Labonte qualified 17th, while Hendrick Truck Series driver Jack Sprague qualified a disappointing 43rd. Sprague is filling in for the injured Ricky Craven.
But they're working real hard, and they've got a good car. We just can't get it to where I can drive it quite yet, but I'm sure by Sunday we'll get the Budweiser Chevrolet to where I feel comfortable in it and have a good race.
As we look at the rest of today's top 25, keep in mind there's a 90% chance of rain on Saturday at Bristol, meaning first-round qualifying may be the only chance for the Winston Cup game. You can see live coverage of the Food City 500 from Bristol Motor Speedway, 1 p.m. Eastern, Sunday on ESPN. The Busch Series had its only round of qualifying on Saturday, and while we've become used to Elliott Sadler showing up on the front row, it was his brother Hermie who will lead the field on Saturday.
We've been struggling some, but we got a qualifying deal together, and we really want to win a race bad for DeWalt and Peebles, and best place to start's on the pole, especially at Bristol, so we're really happy.
Recent NASCAR winners Burton, Trickle, and Green finish out the top 5. Youngsters Shane Hall and Mike Dillon highlight 6 through 10. You can see live coverage of the Moore's Snacks 250 right here on ESPN at 2 o'clock Eastern Time Saturday. Later on Speed Week, Cart goes crashing down under, while some old fixtures come crashing down at Sears Point. Welcome back to Speed Week. The kart series was down under last weekend for the Indy Carnival in Surfers Paradise, Australia. Alex Zanardi made history as he qualified on the pole for a series record 6th consecutive race. Christian Fittipaldi didn't fare so well. He tangled with Gilles de Ferran on the opening lap and slammed into the wall, destroying his front end. De Ferran collected Michel Jourdain as Fittipaldi bounced off both walls before coming to a stop. The Race was red flagged for 45 minutes, and Christian was taken to Gold Coast Hospital, where he underwent surgery for 2 broken bones in his right leg. Because the leaders had not finished 2 laps, CART called for a full restart, and DeFerrin, Jourdain, and Paul Tracy, whose car had broken in a separate incident, were allowed to run their backup car. Zanardi grabbed the lead at the green, but Tracy was close behind. He hounded Zanardi for 18 laps and was finally able to pull up on the inside and take the top spot. The two battled until the 42nd circuit, when Zanardi regained the position with fist pass. As Tracy tried to pull back up alongside Zanardi, their tires touched and both cars went careening off course. Zanardi was able to continue racing and ended up in 4th, but Tracy's day was over. Scott Pruitt inherited the lead and never let up. After 2 white flag laps, he finally saw checkered and recorded his 2nd career victory. Greg Moore followed in 2nd. Michael Andretti finished in 3rd. As you saw, Andretti's Newman Haas teammate Christian Fittipaldi suffered a broken right leg in an early race crash at Surfers Paradise. He had surgery late Sunday night at Gold Coast Hospital, where physicians placed a stainless steel rod in his right tibia. The 26-year-old Brazilian is expected to be out of action 8 weeks. He's scheduled to return to his Florida home on Saturday. Now, his replacement for this weekend's Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach is fellow Brazilian and former Peyton Coyne driver Roberto Moreno. Moreno and the rest of the car drivers participated in provisional qualifying on Friday. For the 2nd straight year, Gilles de Ferrin is the man to beat on the streets of Long Beach. You may recall that he sat on the pole last year and dominated the event, only to be sidelined late in the race with mechanical problems. He's on the provisional pole with a fast lap of 111.594 miles an hour. If de Ferrin's time holds, he will snap Alex Zanardi's streak of 6 consecutive poles, but that doesn't bother Zanardi. He's focused on how he performs on Sunday.
We need a win more than another pole, but if we can get both, it's even better.
Roberto Moreno, who is substituting for the injured Christian Fittipaldi, says he's comfortable in the Newman Haas Ford Swift.
It's so much better than what I'm used to, that I can brake so much later, and that's all new to me, so I need to get used to braking so late. And it's coming very quickly.
Brian Herta was also injured in an incident at Australia. He'll be maneuvering around the 1.59-mile temporary circuit this weekend with a broken thumb. So far, so good. He's 5th overall with a lap of 109.931.
It's a lot better than I thought. I'm having a little trouble in the hairpin. I can't seem to quite unwind the wheel as fast as I want to, but it's not as bad a problem as I thought it might be. So I'm pretty happy. I don't think it'll be an issue in the race.
One driver anxious to be back at Long Beach is Al Unser Jr. The 6-time race winner enters Sunday's show with no championship points. Little Al was 15th quick after 1 round of qualifying. Now, here's a look at the top 25 from Long Beach. The Indy Lights cars are also in action this weekend at Long Beach, and Helio Castro-Neves is on the provisional pole. In other news, Lynn St. James and Buddy Lazier, who were involved in this crash at Phoenix last year, will be teammates at this year's Indy 500. St. James will join Himmelgarn Racing for the month of May with financial help from Synergy Corporation and Lifetime Television. On Thursday, Team Cheever announced that they'll enter 2 teams in May. Owner-driver Eddie Cheever will team up with longtime motocross and Indy Lights driver Jeff Ward. Ward drove for the injured Davy Jones at the January IRL event in Orlando. Now, let's take a look at the CarQuest racing calendar. For all of your auto parts needs, you'll find them at CarQuest. Now, I know we limit our coverage of the NHRA's Pro Stock Bike Division to record-setting runs, Well, here's a record-setting run from last weekend's Winston Invitational at Rockingham, North Carolina. In Saturday's qualifying, the near lane's Matt Hines clocked the quarter mile at 7.300 seconds, breaking Angel Seeling's record of 7.320 set the night before. On Sunday, two defending Winston champions got much-needed wins in the non-points paying event. In Top Fuel, Kenny Bernstein, who qualified last in the 8-car field, rocketed his Budweiser King dragster ahead of Joe Amato in 4.66 seconds at over 299 miles an hour, picking up the $100,000 winner's purse. A similar dollar figure awaited the winner of the funny car final, which pitted defending race champion John Force against Del Worsham. Worsham had a slight advantage at the start, but Force had too much horsepower in his Ford Mustang. He covered the quarter mile in a little over 5 seconds at a speed of 299.5 miles an hour in earning his 4th Winston Invitational victory.
You know, maybe I'm getting too used to winning, but when I sat out those last 2 races at Gainesville and Houston, after getting into the Ford program, it was really embarrassing, and it was just good to step up today. And mainly now we're going to stay tomorrow and test at the Rock with Tony's car and get Tony's car back in.
Now, last weekend's Pro Stock final was postponed due to rain and has been rescheduled for Saturday at the Atlanta Dragway in Commerce, Georgia, site of this weekend's Fram Nationals. Dave McClellan is there, and he's standing by with one of the finalists.
Dave, it was quite a rush for the Mopar team at Rockingham last weekend. For the first time since 1995, a Dodge was on the pole in qualifying in Pro Stock. And for the first time since 1995, a Dodge was in the final. For the first time since 95, this man actually was in a round of competition. You did real well.
Well, we had a good day. I had a consistent rocket on Sunday, and that's what you strive for as a driver. You strive to get a consistent race car under you. I've always said I'd rather not have the quickest car as long as it's close to one of the quickest cars, but it's consistent, makes for a confident driver on Sunday.
Scott Jeffrey on, describe your reaction when you found out you were the #1 qualifier and had that quick time.
I was pretty excited. You know, I just had one word to say, actually 2 words, Dale Ikey. You know, he can build some horsepower. And we've known that since the beginning of the year. It's just been a matter of applying the power to the ground. You know, our short numbers, our 60-foot numbers, and 330 times have been pretty bad all year. And we went there and tested. We've done a lot of testing this year. We finally got this car to respond the way it needs to, and it's starting to show.
Unfortunately, your teammate Darrell Alderman did not make the program. How do you decide who gets the good motors, or are they both the same?
Well, they're both pretty equal now. It's just a matter of making the right run at the right time. And you know how it is nowadays in Pro Stock Eliminator. If you don't run good on Friday night for that night session, Mother Nature normally doesn't gift us with that good air again.
You got butterflies about this weekend. You're running Warren Johnson for $50 grand to determine who's going to be the winner of that Winston Invitational.
I'm just looking forward to it for all the Mopar fans. They've hung in there for the last 2 years. Had a long dry spell before a Mopar's been in the final, and we look to make it exciting.
Scott Jeffrey did not enjoy the same success he had a week ago at Rockingham. He qualified 8th. The leader, the #1 qualifier, the hometown favorite, Warren Johnson, 6.94 seconds at a speed of nearly 199.5 miles an hour. It was a Castrol Mustang in the #1 qualifying spot for Funny Car, but it was not John Force. Tony Pedregon took home all the marbles in the nighttime qualifying session. He had a 5:09 elapsed time, his speed over 297 miles an hour.
Tony Pedregon, step up, take the #1 spot from your boss with a 5:09.
That's great. We just hope it'll hold. We were one of the first pair, and the advantage of John running behind us is he can see what our car did. And, guy, if anybody takes it from us, we want to be the boss.
The Top Fuel cars had problems with the nighttime qualifying session getting a hold of the racetrack, so Tommy Johnson Jr. qualified #1 after the first 2 qualifying sessions. He used this afternoon's time of a 4:78 at 2:99 to stay atop the 16-car field. I'm Dave McClelland reporting for SpeedWeek.
Thanks a lot, Dave. ESPN2's live coverage of eliminations from the Fram Nationals begins Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. In other drag racing news, International Motorsports Group Chairman Andy Evans announced on Thursday that the marketing group has bought Jim Epler's Top Fuel team, which fields female driver Kristen Powell. Evans feels that the IMSG and 18-year-old Powell are a perfect fit.
I think Kristen Powell's a natural. That everything that she's doing in the sport, it raises the profile of the sport. I love the USA Today article about boys move over. And I think that Kristen and Jim are going to be a terrific addition to International Motorsports Group and everything we're doing in racing.
Powell's top performance this season was at Pomona, where she qualified 7th and advanced to the second round. We'll be right back with more Speed Week in just a moment. Well, Indianapolis has become home to yet another significant racetrack. USAC has announced that it will run midget, legend, and dwarf cars at the new 16th Street Speedway. The track was formerly the home of the Indianapolis Indians minor league baseball team. The facility is owned by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and is scheduled to host 26 Saturday night events this year. The first race is set for April 26th. We begin our short track highlights with the World of Outlaws from Eldora. It was a rough night for Mark Kinzer. His problems began at the start of the dash race when this contact from Dean Jacobs sent him spinning. The defending series champ started 8th in the main event, with cousin Steve sharing the front row, with family rival Sammy Swindell, who grabbed the lead for good at the start. Mark's problems were not over. He pitted with a flat tire, but did battle back to finish 7th. Meanwhile, Sammy was on cruise control, recording his 3rd win of the season. Saturday's portion of the program was canceled due to rain. The NARC Sprint Car Series was at Las Vegas Motor Speedway last weekend. Steve Kent led the 22-car field of the green flag and took the early lead. Brent Kading and Jason Stadler battled hard early, trading second place several times. Eventually, Kading worked his way back up to the leader Kent, and they waged this great last lap battle to the finish. Kent narrowly held on for his first win of the '97 season. Saturday's feature got off to a rough start as Randy Tyner and Bobby McMahon, the top 2 qualifiers, eliminated each other on the first lap. On lap 5, Kading used the inside line and vaulted himself past Jimmy Sills and into the lead. Brent held on to record his 4th feature win of the year. On Sunday, USAC held a midget and sprint doubleheader at Winchester Speedway in Indiana. David Steele started on the pole of the 30-lap midget feature and led the field into the first turn. His advantage was short-lived as Steve Barth passed Steele on the following lap to take the lead. Barth also stayed up front for only a single lap as Tracy Hines in the white number 9 passed both Steele and Barth on the 3rd circuit to take the top spot. There were no more exchanges for the lead after that as Hines led the final 27 laps to take the win. At the start of the 10-lap sprint semi-feature, defending series champion Brian Tyler did a complete 360 in the front stretch and kept on going, much to the pleasure of the crowd. 1994 champ Doug Paletta was running 7th in the feature when he tagged the turn 2 wall. He was unhurt. Tyler's bad luck in the semi carried over to the feature. Here he tries to pass the black number 2 of David Steele for 3rd. Instead, the 2 touch and end up hitting opposite front stretch walls. Chet Phillip and Andy Mishner, who had battled all day, were running 1st and 2nd when Phillip inadvertently hit his kill switch. That enabled Mishner to take the lead for good and go on to win the event. The USAC Western States Midgets were at Paris Auto Speedway Wednesday for the debut of this year's Wednesday Night Thunder Series on ESPN2. Pole sitter Donnie Beechler took the early lead, only to wind up in the fence after losing oil pressure. The restart saw Jason Leffler assume the lead with this inside move past Rick Hendricks. Later, Billy Boat caught up to Leffler and briefly took the lead. But Boat was sent back to second place as Tracy Hines brought out the caution before Boat completed the same lap. Leffler was able to hold off Boat for the final 5 laps, picking up his 2nd Western States victory of the year. ESPN2's next Thunder event is Wednesday, April 23rd. It will also feature USAC Western States Midgets live from Bakersfield Speedway in California. Several Thunder drivers were in Madeira, California last Saturday for a co-sanctioned USAC BCRA midget event. That's pole sitter Rick Hendricks jumping to the early lead. The race's first caution flag flew on lap 6 when Chad Nichols spun in turn 1. 10 laps later, Scott Hansen, Billy Boat, and Wally Pankratz were having an exciting battle for second place when the race was red flagged for a violent single car crash in turn 2. The driver of the car was Tom Bonet. It's believed a stuck throttle is what may have sent his car into the wall. The race was eventually called with Hendricks declared the winner. The 33-year-old Bonet was fatally injured in the crash. He is survived by his wife Teresa and son James. We'll be back with more Speed Week in just a moment. And welcome back to Speed Week. The Winston Cup cars are just 3 weeks away from their annual trip to California's wine country for their first road course race of the year. And as Bob Kelly reports, the racing regulars will see some big changes in the coming weeks at historic Sears Point Raceway.
They first started racing here at Sears Point back in 1968. In the 30 years since, the track has gone through many minor modifications, but it's about to get a major facelift. Look for new grandstands, new buildings, and better overall viewing for race fans.
People come to the Winston Cup race this year, or for any of the events at Sears Point this season, they will see a dramatically different facility. We've made some major changes in the overall landscape at some of the areas of the upper loop of the racetrack so that people can sit in one place and actually follow a car most of the length of the track. That's something they could never do before.
The reason they can do all of this now, new ownership. Bruton Smith and Speedway Motorsports took over Sears Point last year, and they could spend nearly $25 million on various track improvements. One of the most visible changes here at Sears Point will be the moving of the media center from the old building over here to the brand new building over here. Now, we know what they'll do in the new building, but what will they do with the old building? What else? This. More than just buildings could be falling at Sears Point. NHRA drag racing records could fall too when this sea-level, cool-weather track installs a new drag racing launch pad.
When we resurface the entire facility, we'll be able to extend the concrete facility, the concrete part of the launching pad, and provide that takeoff area. And we're hopeful that this will be the track where the NHRA records are set every year.
Part of the track resurfacing will include an upgrade to meet technical specs for Formula One cars and motorcycles. So is there an F1 race in Sears Point future?
Whatever the sanctioning body or the style of racing that's appropriate to a road course, we want to be in a position where we have an appropriate facility. And frankly, given the San Francisco market and the surroundings we have in the wine country, we want to present a very compelling opportunity for any form of racing to come and put on a positive major event.
The scheduled completion for all of these improvements is sometime in 1998. And just like the wines that come from the surrounding Napa and Sonoma valleys, this place just keeps getting better with age. At Sears Point Raceway, I'm Bob Kelly reporting for SpeedWeek.
And that'll do it for this edition of Speed Week. We'll be back next Friday night with a preview of the Winston Cup race from Martinsville, plus an interview with road racer Tom Kendall. That's Speed Week next Friday night, 12:30 Eastern Time. Until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.